Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about why a guy would walk through a pile of human poop. And the reason is this worm that you see in front of you. This worm is Necator americanus. It's a nematode, hookworm, that is usually about 8 to 10 millimeters long. And this is its usual life cycle. So the life cycle is it's in the soil, usually in the feces of the host, human poop basically. It lives in the soil for a little while as a larval stage, and then people step on it, or somehow they get it on their skin. The larva penetrates the skin, goes to the bloodstream, then from the bloodstream it goes to the lungs. From the lungs it goes into the trachea, then it gets into your mucus, and then basically the mucal ciliary clearance in your lungs brings it up into your throat, and you swallow it. And this is how your lungs are cleaned out normally, like if dust or you know smoke or anything get into your lungs, it latches onto the mucus, and the mucus gets cleared out into your throat, and you end up swallowing your mucus from your lungs, and then you clear it out. Well, this larva goes in and it uses this transport mechanism to get into your throat. You swallow it, and it gets into your intestines, and it grows in your intestines, and that's where it lives as an adult. Then it makes eggs, it lays the eggs, and then the whole cycle continues. Okay, so why are we talking about this worm? The reason is that there's many scientists who were studying worms as a possible immunoregulatory and allergy treatment. One of them was David Pritchard. And the reason that we're going to him is because he's the one that was in a documentary that the guy in our that we're talking about today, a guy named Jasper Lawrence, heard about. So David Pritchard is an immunologist and biologist in the University of Nottingham. And when he was working earlier on in his work, he worked in Papua New Guinea. And in Papua New Guinea and many parts of the developing world, and for much of human history, having some parasites in you was a normal part of human life. It's only very recently in modern history that we don't have, most people don't have parasites. Usually everyone had at least a few parasites in them. Anyway, he noticed that there was way less autoimmune diseases and way less allergies and asthma in people in Papua New Guinea, and he wondered if it was because of these parasites. So he actually infected himself, and that's what his research was. And if you go to his ResearchGate page, he has 250 publications, which is really impressive, actually. Anyway, he was in a documentary about this, talking about how these hookworms make help people with allergies. And there was a guy named Jasper Lawrence who heard about him through this documentary and then did some research and read into it and thought that this guy's allergies were so bad, like he couldn't go outside most of the time. And he was just miserable. And he took all the medications and he had to be on prednisone all the time to just kind of semi-function. So he thought, this is terrible. I'm going to give this a shot. He tried to get hookworms by ordering them online, and then the online business that was going to send him some hookworms realized that he was not a research lab and said, "Hey, we can't give you hookworms. You're not a research lab." And he said, "Well, why not?" He's like, "Because it's a pathogen. We can't send you a pathogen unless you're a research lab or a scientist studying this stuff." Anyways, he realized he couldn't get anything, and the only way he was going to get this was to go someplace where it's endemic. And he decided to go to Cameroon. And he went to Cameroon in 2006. He traveled to Cameroon and he asked the villagers, "Hey, where's your latrine?" And obviously they thought he was crazy. And he went to the latrine and he walked through steaming mounds of human poop. And he felt itchy in his feet, and he was pretty sure that he got infected. So he, went back home, and sure enough, he was infected. He got infected with hookworm, and in his case, he got a lot better. His allergies and his asthma got way better. It got so much better. He thought, oh my goodness, I have found the cure to this thing. And he decided, well, if other people aren't going to sell this amazing treatment to other people, he was going to do it. So he was isolating larvae and eggs from his own poop, and cleaning them and putting them in little packets so that he could sell them to other people. And this is his website called Autoimmune Therapies. And you can go check it out. And what happened is the FDA shut him down and and told him, you can't be selling pathogens to people through the U.S. Postal Service. He since has moved out. I don't know what he's doing, if he's still selling it or not. He might be, I'm not sure. Um, but here's the reasoning behind all this. And it might actually work, and it probably does work to a certain extent. So for a long time, there's been this thing called the hygiene hypothesis, which was raised because people notice that children that grew up in kind of quote dirtier environments, like in farms around lots of animals, they tended to have a lot less what we call atopic diseases like allergies, asthma, eczema, these things like that. And people that lived in very clean environments, they seem to have a lot more. And so that was called the hygiene hypothesis. And the hypothesis is that you have this part of your immune system that's meant to fight parasites. And when you're developing as a child, your immune system is learning what to fight, what not to fight, and how to function best. And if it's not exposed to actual parasites, it gets confused and starts attacking things like dust mites and pollen and things like that, which it doesn't need to fight. And the reason we think that is there are 5 major kinds of antibodies. There's IgE, this is the major kind, this is the predominant kind. There's IgM, this is kind of an early phase um, adaptive immune response. When the first antibodies you make are going to be these IgM antibodies, but this is the majority function. There's an IgA that's in your mucous membranes. That's on the like in your mouth and in your gut and in your lungs and nose and things like that. So this is kind of like your first antibody that a pathogen would encounter. Then there's IgE, and this is the antibody that mediates allergies. And so when you get an allergy test, one way of testing your allergies is looking at IgE levels against certain allergens. But this is also the antibody that fights against parasites. So the thought process is this thing is supposed to fight parasites, but since you don't have parasites, it's fighting pollen. And then there's IgD, which we don't really know what the role of it is. It is the B cell receptor, but it's a very like 0.025% or 0.25% of these circulating antibodies in your blood. We don't really know what it does. But anyways, that's the theory. The theory is that these parasites have been with us for thousands of years, and our immune systems and this parasite have figured out some kind of homeostasis. The parasites are somewhat immunosuppressive. They suppress the immune system a little bit, which sounds bad, but may be important in keeping us from getting autoimmune diseases and keeping us from getting allergies and asthma and things like that. So, so that's the reason. The reason that Jasper Lawrence in 2006 flew himself to Cameroon and walked through human poop because he was trying to get himself this hookworm so that he could change his immune response so that his allergies and asthma got better. In his case, it definitely worked, and there's a lot of research in this area. People have a little bit of ick factor to having hookworms in their body, so the research currently is to try to figure out what part of the worm is it that causes this immune modulation. If we can isolate the protein or the part of the worm that causes this response, the thought is we could just purify that agent, put it into a capsule or a pill or something, and give that to people, and that would probably be a lot more palatable than actually infecting people with a parasite. Okay, so anyway, I think this is a fascinating story. When I first heard about it, I just thought it was impressive that some guy who was a landscaper in the Bay Area really took it upon himself to fly all the way to Africa to do this. And luckily it worked out great for him. So I hope you guys enjoyed the story and a little bit of background. If you have any comments, please comment below.